Hello everyone, and welcome to our other talk. I am your host, Mushtaq Ali, and your first host will not be here this evening because she is attending to personal business somewhere across the world from us. But she sends her greetings to everybody, and so here we are. Tonight's topic is going to be the circle as the basic unit of the work as opposed to the teacher. And before we get into that, let me say that we're happy to have you here. If you haven't subscribed to us, please consider doing so and hit that like button, because getting likes definitely fluffs up our egos, and we're totally down with that. And most importantly, if you can, give us a comment, because we love to hear from you. We love to reply to your comments, and we try to get to all of them. So as you can, please do these things. So, tonight's topic. Where to start? So, I believe it was in Meetings with Remarkable Men. Gurdjieff relays an account of a talk he had with some heavy-duty dervishes somewhere. And one of them was saying, we find that the student and the teacher, so-called, create the teaching together, meaning that it is a horizontal transmission where the people involved all create the material in a way that is best understood by everyone, as opposed to the top-down variety. Now, what we get most of the time these days is the top-down variety of teaching, where you have a teacher who is the sun source of wisdom for all things, who dispenses this wisdom as he chooses to his humble disciples who are sitting there with their begging bowls going, oh please, may I have another? And contrary to popular belief, this is not the Sufi way, nor is it the way that Gurdjieff taught, even though he had a very strong personality and did not suffer fools lightly. He was not dogmatic in his teaching. Now, when we look at Islam, from the beginning, the Prophet arranged things so that there would not be a spiritual hierarchy. One of my favorite hadiths that I love to quote is, there is no monkery in Islam. There is no priesthood. We keep trying to create one, but there is no priesthood in Islam. We are all required to learn as best we can with the faculties that we have, and to speak with people who know more than we do, in the hopes that we can refine our knowledge together. Does that make sense? Anybody want to argue this point? No? Okay. This is an important thing to remember. Humanity, though, tends to hate this. And so what you get is, every chance you get, somebody turns themselves into the priest. It's doubly bad for Muslims because our priesthood are all lawyers. And if you pay any attention to lawyers, you know that that's maybe not the best possible idea. And I have to tell you all that I'm a little bit slow today because I got my update vaccination for COVID yesterday, and I'm not exactly going to fall asleep on you, but I can feel its effects a little bit. So if I seem a little bit slow, it's temporary, inshallah. So, what does this mean for us? Before there were cults of personality masquerading as dervish orders, it was done in a somewhat different way, which was people came and sat with the teacher, and they learned. The teacher was given respect, but it wasn't like, oh, we must worship the teacher, or the teacher is infallible. If I have learned anything in a long and fruitful life, is that there is no teacher anywhere who is infallible. I would like to be infallible. Then I could figure out what the lottery tickets are going to be next week. But, unfortunately, this is not the case. So when we know that the teaching and the teacher are not the same thing, and that the teacher can make mistakes, then you have to approach it in a different way. Also, back in the day, information traveled much more slowly than it does today. For a large portion of human history, the fastest a message could move across the planet was at the speed of a galloping horse. Think about that. It wasn't, I mean, here I'm talking to people across the country, in other countries, as far away as Dubai, Sweden, India. Who all is here today? Yeah, all these places, and it's like nothing. 100 years ago, this was impossible. If I wanted to talk to you guys, I couldn't call you up on the phone because there weren't any. I could maybe send you a telegram if there was a telegram station near you. Or I could write a letter and send it out. During those times, in order for people to work, you couldn't rely upon the teacher unless you lived in the same town as he or she did. And a lot of that happened. But if the teaching, if the work wanted to expand, it had to be done in a different way. And that way was to create circles, or work groups, as Mr. Gurdjieff called them. I like circles better. The Arabic word is Halkah, and it is the basic unit of Sufism. The Sheikh is not the basic unit of Sufism. The Murshid is not the basic unit of Sufism. The circle is. And what the circle looks like is a group of people, men and women, young and old, who come together to do the work. In the old days, if you were not living in the same town as the person who was guiding that circle, then he or she might show up once a year and give you new material. And then it's up to you to work on that. And you have to stand on your own. Now, this is radically different than what we see today. The other thing that you have is the older students And sometimes the younger students will be given charge of certain materials. So if I were a teacher and this were a circle, I might say to Wael, when you meet with your people, please work on this with them. Or I might say to Freya, when you're in the circle, show people how to be happy. If you don't know who Freya is, that's our youngest member. And babies know how to be happy. Does this make sense so far? Funny says, they really do. Y'all can have your chats open because sometimes chat goes on in the background. Usually Noor takes care of this, so if I don't see it immediately and you guys are watching it, you can let me know that somebody said something. I would be grateful. Because unfortunately nobody has yet given me the omniscience package. So, any questions so far?
A basic question, if you don't mind,
Yes,
Mushtaq,
please.
is I know numbers can play a particular parts in things, in structures.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at the structure of a halqa, of a circle, what is there a particular number that constitutes a halqa? And when
Over 3, but the ideal halka is no greater number than that which allows everybody in the circle to know everyone else, to know and be able to work with everyone else. So circles are small.
Hmm.
Sufism has never had a megachurch, and inshallah never will. The work is intimate. The circle is intimate because you can't help support somebody unless you know them. So, I see teachers who have 1,000 people in their audience, right? They aren't helping anybody. They're telling you cool stuff that can hit all of your feel-good buttons, but there is no help with that. And it's very rare that enough people from different circles would come together to constitute a crowd. That might happen once a year, usually on the Urs. The Urs is the celebration of the passing of the founder of a tariqah, for instance. Then there might be a big party. But other than that, it tends to be small. And the reason it tends to be small is that you have to know the people you're working with. And when a teacher comes in to help the circle, oh my God. Sorry, I just got excited. Board has joined us. So, another person from far away. So where was I? When the teacher comes in, they have to be able to embrace the entire group and to feel what's going on, to have a sense of where the group is, how they're interacting, what they're doing, where they need support, where they are doing really well. And you can't do that with 1,000 people. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you are Lord High Master of the Universe, Great Grand Sheikh. You can't do it. And if you think you can, you're delusional. So, circles are small. Circles are intimate. My teacher rarely had more than 30 people at a time in a circle. And that was enough. And we had a rollicking good time. But he had circles of that size all over the world. And when one got too big, he would split them up. So, questions?
Yeah, I had a question.
Yes, please, Jonathan. You always have good questions.
Well, I'm thinking that this is a potential problem with a circle group. Let's say you've got 10 members and they're kind of getting a bit cliquey. You know, they're revolving the same ideas around and round, and nothing new really is developing. And let's say one member acquires some radical new knowledge, and he wants to bring it to the group. They want to bring it to the group. And when they do, it's not received well. It's like, it's shaking, it's rocking the boat. And because this person doesn't have the authority to bring in something new, he's basically told to leave or shut up.
Ah, you mean a Gurdjieff group? Did I say that out loud? Yes, so there is that situation. What's your question?
The question is, could this be a problem? Because there's no one with authority to say, wait a second, we need to listen to this idea. This has value, and this can help us get out of this stuck cycle.
It absolutely can be a problem, which is why the teacher needs to show up to the group once or twice a year, and also why the teacher will be in communication with the people who are appointed to be the stewards of the group, to know if this is going to happen. This usually happens after the death of a teacher, almost inevitably. Groups stratify unless there is a clear line of succession. And it's an absolute problem. And the only way to address it is to make sure that the group stays on track and understands that nobody is special and that everybody gets a say, and that if you are clicked up, you are lost in your ego. And it's hard. And it's a constant problem. It's something that, as the teachers of this group, Noor and I, constantly scan for. Thankfully, mashallah, we have not seen this in this group at this point. The people who kind of do this tend to drop away. But yeah, it's a real consideration, and it's something that when you are running a group, Jonathan, you will have to keep your eyes on this. There is also the problem of people in the group becoming kind of totalitarian and rigid and dogmatic. Uh-oh.
I have a reminder for Mushtaq.
That's my reminder not to be totalitarian and dogmatic. This can happen very, very easily, especially with older students. There is this idea that time in place means that you know something. So you have the student who has been with the teacher or been in the circle for 10 years, and the student who has been in the circle for 1 year. And the assumption is that the person who has been there for 10 years knows more. And this is not necessarily the truth. Oftentimes, and there's all of these stories about this, you know, you have a circle going on and the teacher's there and he's teaching, and everybody assumes that this person is going to be appointed his Khalifa because they've been there for years and years and years, and he ends up appointing the tea server as the Khalifa of the group. And everybody's like, oh no, he's the tea server. He doesn't know nothing. He hasn't been like learning all of this stuff. But the main question is always, is he awake? And that's the heart of the idea of the circle. Is he awake? Is the circle awake? Are they stuck in their egotistical considerations? Are they doing pecking order, hunting for supremacy within the group? Or are they all working together to be awake and to help each other be awake? And the whole point of a group is so that you can have mutual support. All of us here at this moment constitute a group, a circle. All of us are accountable to each other, and that includes me. There is no pedestal upon which any of us can sit. And so Wael might say to me at some point, brother, I think you were a little sleepy there when you were talking about this stuff. And it's my job to listen to that feedback. I can't go, who are you to talk to me? I am the great sheikh of the whole world, and I know all of these things, and I'm special, and you can't say that to me. Which just demonstrates the fact that he was right. This is a hard one for people to get. We're all in this together. We are in this small, somewhat leaky boat, drifting across the sea of reality towards that far, shiny shore. And the only way we're going to get there is if we all learn to paddle together. You're all so quiet today. I need Noor prodding you. Pretend I'm Noor, and I go, all right, somebody ask a question. Somebody say something. What do you think? What's your comment? The only person who is excused from commenting right now is Funny because she has a baby in her lap and it's hard to type, especially when the baby wants to play with the keys.
There's a basic fact in the circle. Everyone can see each other, and you're all on the same level. So they're just from the structure of the circle. There's no hierarchy, and you're on equal status. Each person visible to the other, and so forth. So.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Everyone in the circle plays their roles. The roles can change. In traditional Sufi circles, you have seekers who come. They have not been formally invited into the circle, but they are welcome guests. You have the dervishes, the people who have been invited into the circle and have accepted the invitation through a process that's called bayat, which literally means taking hand. You take hands with the teacher and the circle together. And in the old days, we had really formal initiations for that. And who knows, one day we may have that again. Kind of hard to do across the internet, but such is life. Then you have people that are usually known as the dervishes of service. These are the people who make everything happen. They sweep the floors, they prepare the meals. If you are a guest or just a regular dervish, you are oftentimes not allowed to do anything other than be a guest. Nobody is going to expect you to help cook dinner. You get treated like a guest, but you have this group of people who work really hard to make everything happen. And while they look like they are servants, oftentimes, because you'll see one sweeping the floor and the other one preparing tea and all of this, they're actually the people who are better at staying awake than the average person in the circle. And those are the people who do the work of maintaining the circle. Does that make sense so far? In all of this, we work very hard to keep our egos out of it. And believe me, your ego can get in anywhere. You can be there cleaning the toilets and go to yourself, look how high and great I am because the sheikh has asked me to clean the toilets today. That means I must be special. And you ain't.
I have a comment.
Yes, please.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe that the understanding is if any member of the group has a success in the group, that it's the success of everyone in the group. And I've had experience of this with this group in that when a member has expressed some success with one or more of the exercises, I've been delighted for them and just delighted about our group. But the converse is supposed to be true too, that if members are having trouble or it's resulting in a bad effect on them, we're supposed to feel that the group as a whole should be feeling that. I've not experienced the converse.
Yeah, it's not that the group should also be feeling bad. It's that the group should be feeling supportive. So, somebody has great success. We hear that and we are overjoyed because their success blesses us. Somebody is having a hard time, we support them because their hard time also blesses us. Do you know why their hard time blesses us?
No.
Because we can learn from their mistakes rather than having to make them ourselves. Reason number one. Two, it allows us to be of service to our brethren and sisterin, which is important for our egos. Now, this is tricky, and this is why there needs to be someone who can guide the group from time to time, because you can often, if somebody's having a hard time, fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I'm better than this person because I'm not having this hard time. I will help them. I will deign to help them. And this gets back to helping as a favor rather than helping as an obligation to God. Does that make sense? Or am I rambling again? I don't have Noor here to poke me and go, you're rambling again. So you guys are going to have to help out this time. So what do you think, Jonathan? Have I made sense?
Yeah, yes, you have. In fact, it sounds like the converse of a member struggling, there's more to be gained from supporting that and learned from that then.
Yeah, because we can all learn from their process without having to create that particular problem for ourselves. There is also this interesting effect. Do you all know who Rupert Sheldrake is? One person knows Rupert Sheldrake. So he is a eminent British biologist who made some interesting observations, thereby ruining his career as an eminent British biologist. He noticed that there seemed to be some sort of collective kind of intelligence that life seemed to have. It's a heresy that continues to pop up over and over again, and he called it morphic resonance. You may have heard of the 100th monkey phenomena, which is a simplified discussion of morphic resonance. Basically what it is that the easier, it is easier to do things when a lot of people have been doing it. And he did lots of experiments to prove that this is the case. I think his research has a lot to it. But here's the basic thing. If we're in a group, every time one of the members of the group has success in their practice, it makes it incrementally easier for everybody to have success in their practice. Through this process, perhaps. I do know this to be true. I can't give you the exact mechanism of why it's true. But Sheldrake's work gives us a possible hint. So, when we're working in a circle, the energy builds as we all have success. If everyone in the circle is awake, the circle has serious power. If one of the members in the circle is not awake and everybody else is, you will have a tendency to pull that one person into your state of awakeness through a process called entrainment. Proper groups entrain. Entrainment is a well-observed phenomena. If you have two cuckoo clocks and they have pendulums, and you put them both on a wall and you start the pendulum swinging in different patterns to each other, after a very short time, they will start swinging together. And one says that they are entrained. If you have two heart cells in a petri dish, each of them is going to be pulsing. And as you bring them closer and closer together, before they even touch, they start pulsing together. Right now, your heart works because all of the cells in it are entrained to the same pulse. When this entrainment gets to high level, it's called group flow. And that's what you look for in a circle. The idea of being able to operate together in a flow state, in an awakened state, to the benefit of the entire group and to the benefit of the world. You understand that last part? The benefit of the world? Yes, no?
Mushtaq, could you please perhaps explain how a group, how a circle of individuals can benefit the world. I get how it benefits the people in the group, but are you referring to the morphic resonance
To a
effect?
certain extent, yeah. So let's take for an example the Mevlevis. You all know the Mevlevis. They call them the whirling dervishes. They're from Turkey, from Konya. They are Sufis in the line of Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi, the famous Persian poet and incredibly cool guy. They have a ceremony called Sama. Sama means an audition, it means listening. But theirs is particular in that it is where they all turn, where they do their turning. Now, contrary to popular belief in the West, this turning is not some sort of ecstatic losing yourself and spinning around and everybody's doing their own thing. It's incredibly disciplined. Incredibly disciplined. It's done in 4 sections called the 4 salams. Each one has a different pattern to the turning. And everyone in the group must help embrace this pattern. And by the time you get to the 4th salam, the entire group of dervishes is in complete entrainment. They're not dizzy. They have not lost themselves in any kind of trance-like effect. They are perfectly awake. They are there, present in the room, and they are moving along a certain pattern. At that point, the sheikh comes out into the center of the circle as all of these dervishes are revolving around the semakhana, the place where they're doing this. And he also turns in a very special way. I was told by my Mevlevi sheikh friend that this is the dervishes working to draw certain energies from the divine reality, channel them to the sheikh, who disperses them throughout the world for the benefit of mankind. And this will not happen unless you have achieved group flow and everybody is present to this. So that energy that goes out is catalytic. Catalytic means that when one encounters it, it creates a change in the person, not in the energy. And so it's a form of feeding the universe, you might say. And, you know, whether or not you believe that that has any merit, that has any reality, my experience is that it does. That when the dervishes do their sama, it adds incrementally to the goodness of the world. And it adds energy to the possibility of awakening. So every circle will have something that adds to that. Gurdjieff called this the reciprocal maintenance of the universe. We all feed the universe in a particular way. Most of us feed the universe through the energy that is released with our death, because we've spent our entire life asleep, and so we've never done any of the work. You can, however, feed the universe consciously. You can pay the toll of energy that is required of you to be part of this particular game. And you can do that consciously. And when you do, the universe likes you and will tend to try and keep you around a little bit longer. So there's always that. So the circle is not turned entirely inward. Every circle that I've experienced will do something in the world. My teacher used to have his dervishes create food kitchens. One place that he did this was in Africa, specifically in South Africa. And so you had the Christians had food kitchens. You had the regular, everyday Muslims had food kitchens. You had every religion had their food kitchen. And Sheikh said, we should have a food kitchen. The difference was that people could come and eat at our kitchen, and we were grateful to have them, and we didn't preach at them. We did not try and convert them. We did not tell them that they needed to be like us. We just said, thank you for letting us serve you. Consequently, after about 6 months of this, the Sheikh's food kitchen was always filled to the max, and the other people were going, why are they going there? We have more food. We have better food. But the hungry people preferred to come to our kitchen because we did this as a service to them rather than as a favor to them. We did this to enhance their lives rather than try to convert them to any form of thought. Surprisingly, a lot of them got really interested in what we were doing without us having to try and preach at them. So, something to consider. One circle that I was heavily involved in, as its service to the world, taught self-defense. We ran classes on a regular basis that anybody could come and take. Seriously good material, mostly here in the States. But I created a class like this in Tanzania. It was, I am pretty proud to say, and my ego shows a little bit on this one, it was probably the very first women's self-defense course offered in Tanzania. And it was very powerful. And nobody was required to be a part of our circle. All you were required to do was show up, practice, be kind to each other. And it had a positive effect. There was, at one point, when this woman cleric came to visit the mosque in town. She came from Pakistan. And everybody was afraid that she was going to freak out that here were women learning self-defense and how this would be haram and they would get forbidden. But I said, bring her, let her see. And she came, and she watched for about 15 minutes, and then she said, teach me too. I want to join. Women need this. And so she joined, and she kicked ass, and it was wonderful. And that's the outward work of a circle. Can be anything, but it needs to give back to the world. If you are just facing inward, my personal thought is that you will never finish the path. You have to be both inward and outward. You know, as the saying goes, khalwat bar anjuman, solitude in the crowd. Be within your practice while you are in the marketplace. So, more thoughts, more questions. Any thoughts?
Yeah. What happens if, let's say, there's growth within the members of a group, but there's going to be different rates of growth,
Yeah.
and some members surely are going to outgrow their circle, they must leave them.
No,
Or, I mean,
just because you have learned more than the person is sitting next to you doesn't mean you have to leave. What means is that you might have to help a bit more. If you were in one of my circles and I came there and I saw that you had advanced beyond your brothers and sisters in that circle, I would appoint you as a group leader. I would say, help these people understand. Help them with their practice. That's the way it's supposed to work. Levita, were you waving your hand at me? Damn it.
Fanny said she had to go.
Okay. Funny, take care. We'll see you all. Thank you, Jonathan. See, Noor usually takes care of that, and I never look down at the messages. I have to catch them out of the corner of my eye. So, yeah, just because you're more, that you have managed to stay awake longer than your friends, doesn't mean that you are special, doesn't mean that you have outgrown them. As a matter of fact, what you might need is to be of service to them more deeply by becoming a group leader. Technically, those people are called either a wakil, or a khalifa. And both of those mean a representative. They're slightly different in tone, but the teachers of the group will appoint people to be their representatives and to help steer the group while they are not there. So that's what happens. You don't outgrow the group. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
Yeah. The worst possible thing that could happen to you in those circumstances is that you become fully awakened. And then the teacher says, dude, go out and make a circle. Then you have to go out and do the work yourself. But it doesn't.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I guess in a sense, it's also the group that grows.
Yes, the group
And
does.
then when we as brothers and sisters, when we hit the next wall, so to speak, the group will be there to catch us, hopefully.
Hopefully. By the way, welcome back. Happy to have you. I've enjoyed your
Thanks
adventures.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So, yeah, exactly right. So, the teacher is not the most important thing in the group. The circle is. That's the whole message of today, is that the circle is more important than the teacher. My teacher said to me, one of the ways that you know a teacher is a teacher is that they don't point to themselves, ever. They point to God. They point to the reality, to al-haq. You all remember what that means, right? The truth, the real. And so, if somebody comes up and says, oh, you're so cool, your job is to go, no, cool is over there. Look to the truth, don't look at me. And a circle falls apart under certain circumstances. One of which is that, in the case of Gurdjieff, for instance, he died without appointing an obvious successor, without going, follow this person after me. And so everybody was left flailing. Now, he did have a successor as far as I'm concerned, which was Madame de Saltzman. She seems to have been able to successfully carry on his work. but I have never been intimately involved with that group, so I'm just saying that as an outsider watching what was going on. Another way is for the teacher to allow their ego to become inflated, which is easy to do because the person who is acting as the teacher deserves and should be given a certain amount of respect because they are working hard for not just this group, but all of the groups that they're in charge of. And traditionally, there was various ways that they did that. But the trap to that is you can start believing your own press. Within our lineage, the teachers never allowed anybody to treat them with excessive deference. You were not expected to, genuflect or do all of this kind of stuff. Most teachers would not, under any circumstances, accept personal gifts. Only gifts that would support the circles, support the tariqa, the path, the work that you were doing. Which I think is a really good idea, because the human tendency to want to buy favor is pretty big. Which is not to say that I don't enjoy the occasional present, but that's a different story. Doesn't mean that I'm going to take them or take them seriously. So, that's the second way a group can fall apart. The third way is for the group, for the circle, to create a dogma. Dogma is unquestioned truth. And any truth that you are not allowed to question has to be a lie. Does that make sense? I am outlining this for you because some of you, one day, inshallah, y'all remember what inshallah means, right? If God wills, will be helping to create and maintain circles around the world in one form or another. And so you have to know how this works. So, any thoughts, questions, queries? Who have we not heard from? Harris, what do you think? If you don't have a microphone, feel free to type. I'll read it out. If you have nothing to say, I won't hold it against you.
Yes, I cannot say anything special to that. Like I understand it, and I think it makes sense to then ensure that you have the right people around you. Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't have anything to say. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
That's good. Thank you for saying that. Rohit, what do you think?
So now at the moment, nothing to say much. I'm enjoying, I'm learning.
Good. Do you think I'm crazy?
Huh?
Do you think I'm crazy? Relax. I'm crazy. It's okay. You can say it. But thank you for your comment. Levita.
That was a trap, Rohit. You successfully avoided it. No, I was listening and applying it to some stuff that has happened in the past that now makes more sense. Although that buying favor thing, people do it because it usually works.
Yeah, it's easy for people to fall into that trap. You know, you give me a sword, you got me wrapped around your little finger.
Wait! I might have one or two at home.
Yeah, I got to watch out for that. Fortunately, I have Noor who goes, you don't need another sword.
That's what my kids say.
Yeah. Actually, she would say, sell the sword, feed the poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then she'd be mad. The sword isn't worth anything.
There's always that. Okay. Thank you. David.
So the teacher and the student create the teaching one-on-one, and in group meetings or circle meetings, the teaching is also being created in a way that benefits all of the students.
Yes.
I was also wondering, is there one teaching and just multiple ways, multiple facets of it that are, I guess, equivalent, or are there multiple like teachings that are different but all the truth? I'm not quite sure how to.
There is one teaching.
Gotcha.
And that boils down to something really simple. Mankind is asleep. Usually they spend their life asleep. They die in their sleep. Maybe after they're dead, they might wake up, they might not, who knows? The prophet said, mankind is asleep and you will not wake up till you die. And then he went on to say, die before you die. So the teaching is, there is one reality, there is one truth, there is one divine presence, and you can be awake within that which has been created for you. That's it, pretty much. You're either awake or you're asleep, and there is a unity.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And the way that that's expressed is totally different for everybody. So you and I talk together on a fairly regular basis, and I occasionally give you suggestions on what you might do for your practice. And if I gave those same suggestions to Levita, they would not work for her because she's a completely different person. So the personal work has to be crafted to the student. And this is one of the problems when there is no teacher around, no one who has been there and knows how to do this. Because then you get people who think that they can teach and they just make this shit up. And they all go, hey, do this one practice and it'll work for you. I have a process and it'll work for you. And the process works for everybody. And the process doesn't work for everybody. There is no process that works for everybody.
Especially in the YouTube era, where you can
Especially in the YouTube area.
find somebody, oh, they have a nice background, they must know what they're talking about, or high production values or whatever it is. It's so easy to find something that sounds good, but it really has no depth in relation to the student's actual path.
Yeah. Or the student's needs, for that matter.
Yeah.
And this is why you get huge groups where everybody's miserable and nobody's advancing. And the only thing that's happening is the teacher is getting richer and richer. As you probably can discern, I have a slight amount of disdain for that. It's not so good. So we try to avoid that. And we do that through keeping our egos in check, helping each other keep our egos in check, staying awake, and working on the processes individually. And insofar as I know, I can help people. I am not claiming anything other than that. And some days are better than others. And it's raining outside. We like this. And so you asked a question in text, I see now, David. Did I answer it enough for you?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Good. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up everything that I wanted to say. And so I think, unless there are any more questions, and I will field questions all day long if I need to, but unless I do, I'm going to end the recording, and let me switch over to Brady Bunch View. There we go. We can all see each other. And say thank you very much for coming and hanging out with us, especially hanging out with me, because it's lonesome without Noor here. It's very sad. And we will see you all next time. Bye, folks.